The Hustler Fund has so far disbursed 48 billion shillings, almost 2 years since the fund was formed. The fund is also battling high numbers of defaulters, with the figure now standing at 10 billion shillings at the end of December 2023. Betty Kiptum caught up with Elizabeth Nkukuu, the acting Chief Executive Officer of Hustler Fund, to find out the ups and downs of the fund. Here are the details.
Thank you for watching KBC Channel 1. It is now time for an interactive session, and we want to talk about the Hustler Fund. This was created to ensure that the common mwananchi has better access to credit. To have this conversation is Elizabeth Nkukuu, who is the acting CEO in charge of Hustler Fund. Thank you very much, Liz, for speaking with us. I mean, 48 billion shillings disbursed so far.
Yes.
What are the numbers looking like, and what are the benefits?
Thank you, Betty, and thanks for always having an opportunity for us to come and talk to mwananchi about the performance of the Hustler Fund. We have seen great strides. The fund has grown quite a bit in terms of disbursements, in terms of success stories, in terms of even forecasts. The savings is another thing that I would really want us to talk about today. So the total disbursements are close to 48 billion. Repayments are also catching up. We are at 36 billion. So clearly our repayment is well above 73%, which is pretty decent. If you look at the performances across the country, we have, again, varied repayments, but we can say with an average of 73, we have the highest repairs at over 80%, that is per county. We could have some that are lagging behind, but yes, we will take time to explain to them why they need to pay and also support them. This is, if you remember, the Hustler Fund is not only a money-giving mechanism, but it's also a way for us to see how can we support mwananchi across the board. Why are they not paying? Will it be an economic policy that we need to push towards where they are? So you need to look at Hustler Fund not only on the numbers, but also what is it helping, what is it telling us as a country, what do we need to do other than the credit only. So the prepayments have been great, the savings have also been great. We are at 2.8 billion of Kenyan people's money, all invested and earning treasury bill rates. So we are seeing that as also a significant game changer. From the anniversary, the government kept its word. Everybody who had at least borrowed 5 times and actually everybody who had borrowed 5 times, they got their long-term savings matched. So that is one thing that I think we all need to look forward to. Everybody, if you remember the product, for every 2 shillings you had saved on the long term, the government gave you 1 shilling. So imagine how kind of savings those are. And the way the product is, up to a maximum of, you'll get a maximum of 3,000. So for every 6,000 shillings you save, you get 3,000. So it's been an interesting journey. And I think even for the people who are using the funds, we can say success stories, because if you remember during the anniversary, we actually showcased a gentleman from Mombasa who had borrowed 800 times. And do you know what? That person actually got their tuk-tuk. So it's really good news.
The Hustler Fund is currently in its second phase, targeting MSMEs and chamas. What lessons were learned from the first phase and now picked to the implementation of this second phase?
If you remember, the biggest challenge that people have been talking about is about limits. You are giving me 500 and then I can do with it what? So the first thing was, to show people, yes, the limits could be low, but you can do something that helps you increase your limits. So, so that on the personal level, what then happened after the anniversary, good borrowers' limits were enhanced. So there are people who got their limits actually more than doubled. We got someone whose limit maybe increased by 60%. We got, and the lowest increment to about 40%. These are people who had borrowed at least between three times. At least if you had borrowed more than 2 times, you actually got your limit increased, and you were in good standing. That again, so that was the credit led. The other thing was like, okay, fine, this person has the savings. You don't have significant risk on this person. Can you even give them even higher? So there are people who are borrowing 50,000 as we speak from the Hustler Fund on an individual level. So even before you go to the business, the limits conversation for good borrowers is actually a very positive story. We have 1.2 million people who actually got their limits increased. As long as you're a good borrower, you are saving consistently, then that becomes the story that we back on. So for the now onto the business side, which is the chama and also the biashara. One of the reasons why we were getting into that is also to increase the limits. And what we have seen with the chamas is that in as much as the limits are getting increased because of the number of people you have, because we are using that as a leverage. So for example, if my limit is 1,000, if I borrow through the chama, I get 3,000. I contribute 3,000 to the chama. So that is one of the ways of sorting out the limits bit. But also now what we are looking at, how do we help these people actually create actual businesses? So we are, with the help of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Authority, you actually get a tradable certificate that you can go showcase and say, this is what we are doing as a chama, and you can be able to actually access funding even from the other funds other than the Hustler Fund. So how then do we help these people? Because you remember, money is one of the problems that people have, but it's not the only problem. The other biggest problem is capacity. How do I keep my books? How do I know that I have a business that is scalable? So our focus now is also helping these people create sustainable businesses that are scalable through the assistance of the authority, that is MCEA, and other government institutions. Our key focus will be capacity building. We want you to start a business today. Then you need to package it in a way that is going to work so that you can employ more people. We don't want Betty always to be working alone. We want you to grow the enterprise and bring on more people. So as we move into this other next level, it will be a lot of commercialization of the enterprises and helping them grow.
From the amount that has been disbursed so far, of course 48 billion is not a small amount of money. What success stories can you pick from especially the businesses currently?
I'll talk about a gentleman that, who, our top borrower. This particular person borrows on a day-to-day basis, every day. So they started, they run a shop. Every morning they stock, actually they say they get sugar. So from that sugar, then they're able to reborrow and reborrow and reborrow. So if you go to their place, they have actually expanded the shops and all that. And that was from 6,000. Their initial limit was 6,000. So that person today is able to borrow 50,000. And after the anniversary, they could access 100,000 of their savings, because remember they could access 30,000. You could get 30% of your savings. So if you look at it, there are a lot of success stories like those that we can talk about. And I think we need to do a better job communicating the successes as well, so that someone can see what you can do with the little that you're getting. Mm-hmm. Yes.
The underserved people, the remote areas, as much as you're doing this capacity building, how do you ensure that there are some people who went to school, and they might be able to get this information or grasp it easier?
Yes.
There are others who did not go to school. You just get together with your fellow women in the village and start a chama, and slowly you're growing. Now you're borrowing on the Hustler Fund. How do you reach these very remote areas and underserved people?
So as part of product development, one of the things we realized that when we were doing the analysis, the people who have joined the chamas are actually not elite, but they are people who understand the systems a little bit. And the other thing that we looked at, maybe that journey, people get tired in between. So we are actually looking at how do we shorten the journey of the chama especially, and how are we reaching the people at the grassroots. So what we are doing is we are partnering with the government, the Ngao team, so that we are able to get into the barazas, explain to people, teach these people actually, so that they can become our ambassadors. So we have had several sessions with them so that we can explain to them how the Hustler Fund works, and then they can go a step further and disseminate the information. So the other thing is that we are going to be doing is registration of the chamas, so that we ensure that people have an economic activity. We are going to do what is called aided registration. We go to Marikiti and register people there in their chamas, because the process could be tedious, and maybe some of the people give up on it. So we'll just come register people within the same ecosystem, because you also want to see what is it that they are doing and how can they co-guarantee each other. You don't want to fall into a situation whereby you are sending money on the chama but for consumption. This is focused on businesses. So that is one of the focus areas that we are going to be really pushing.
So Liz, with 36 billion shillings in repayment, of course there is about 12 billion thereabout yet to be repaid. What are you doing to ensure that more Kenyans are faithfully repaying their loans?
So Betty, there are things you have to, this is a journey. Remember when Hustler Fund came into being, it is coming to correct some market issues. When the government comes into something, it's because they want to nurture. So what then the fund is doing, first of all, is showing these success stories. You know, once you tell someone this is what you need to do because of ABCD, this person has done it and this is how they are looking at it. So we are going to be communicating the success stories to people and showing them the reason why they should pay. And you see also the people who have already paid, they have benefited in two ways. Your limit is higher, and also your savings have also been, you already have a higher limit, say, quote-unquote return, because the government has already matched your savings. So the positivity is what we are selling as is. But you're looking at other ways in terms of how do we make this person realize that it is for their own good to pay. So we are looking at different issues, and when the policies are ready, it's something that we shall ask again for your platform for us to come and communicate and tell people why we maybe the measures for repayments will come in. But as we speak, it's really talking to people and showing them why this is important. And actually, if you're someone who borrowed this fund and thought that this amount is so low, then you're not the right target person. So you should better repay and get the other person who is better or who deserves it to actually get it. Because there are people maybe who are not paying because it's government money. Yes, it's government money, but it's a loan. You should always pay your loans.
With 2.8 billion shillings in savings so far, how accessible are these funds to Kenyans who have saved the money?
We have two products under the savings. We have what is mandatory. As you borrow, you get 5% deducted from at source. So you have 500 shillings. What comes to your account is 475, or what goes to your M-Pesa account is 475. 25 shillings goes to the savings. That is what is called mandatory. That mandatory portion is actually divided again into two, 30% and 70%. We don't want you to be old without money. We want to help you at least live a good life after retirement. We define retirement age as 60 because we want to give people options as well. We know hustlers don't retire. That is one of the conversations we always told. Yeah. But you may not retire, but it's good to have options that, you know what, I can access this money at some point. So 30% of the money you can access at any point. So from the fund's anniversary, we opened 30%. The withdrawals, interesting, have not been that much. People still want to have their monies there. But also, yeah, so that's it. Then the 70% you access when you turn age 60. After age 60, sorry. So as you turn to age 61, that's when you start accessing your 70%. And that is the portion that the government is actually matched, the long term. Then, for people who are above the age of 61, we treat all your savings as a short term because you could need that money, so all your money is short term, you can access it. People have accessed their funds. So the question is not an issue of when, it is, if you have saved, you can actually access your money. If you have saved your voluntary savings, it acts like a money market fund. You actually can just dial *254# and withdraw your money. So we are giving people alternatives to savings, so that your money does not always sit under the pillow. We want to help you or to walk the journey of introducing people to the capital markets in a riskless manner, and that is why all the savings have to be invested in government securities. Yes.
The Hustler Fund targets the common mwananchi, and we know that a lot of Kenyans are stuck in debt. You know, they are borrowing here to pay here, and I'm sure some have even borrowed on Hustler Fund to pay, another loan somewhere. So that means financial literacy is still lacking in this country. What do you think the Hustler Fund and the government at large can do to solve this challenge?
I think the biggest thing is training and letting more people discuss or talk about the best ways to use debt. Because yes, people borrow from here to here, but I think there are two things that you need to understand. So first of all, if these people are are basically borrowing because they have no means. You have to create a way they can earn. So I think we have seen the president talk a lot about how employment is a key thing, what the government is doing about employment. So I think on that end, the government is doing a lot in terms of making sure people can earn. On the other end, it is now good, it's now taking that and taking an initiative of explaining to people the use of good debt. Because debt is not bad. The issue is don't borrow to drink, borrow to start a business. So, and I think with the showcasing of the success stories with the Hustler Fund and other sorts of borrowing, that will change the culture. And maybe my recommendation is this training needs to start earlier on. I keep saying if I looked at investments differently, not from classroom perspective when I was getting help, I think my life would be very different. So we used to think about compounding interest as kupita mtihani, but now if you can see that as a wealth creation path, I think it is different. So I just feel like it's something that we need to start introducing our kids very earlier on to change our culture, because it's a culture problem.
How sustainable is the Hustler Fund?
The Hustler Fund is sustainable because there are people borrowing and people repaying. And if you look at the social good that it is actually giving to the country, there's a lot of interest also of people wanting to come and not only lend, but also offer products within the fund. So if you look at the Hustler Fund, it's not only a lending platform, it's actually a complete e-commerce offering different products. We shall have people trading with each other within the fund because we have the largest database with 22 million Kenyans subscribed. So you can imagine what sort of a market that is. So in terms of sustainability of the fund, I can say for sure it is sustainable. I think everything is going technology, it's technological advancement. So the question is, how do we ensure that we don't leave anyone behind? If, for example, you want to lend to my mother, how do I make sure that she understands what exactly this is? And someone else is not going to take advantage of that and so lose interest in the fund. So I feel like, yeah, sustainable, but there is still a lot of work that we need to do in education.
In education?
Yeah.
And speaking of now the Hustler Fund, it is a government product. There is the private sector that offers the same product that Hustler Fund offers. I'd like you to speak about empowering, public-private partnerships in terms of empowering Kenyans access credit.
I think the biggest success story is the Hustler Fund of a PPP in this country. Actually, someone needs to write about success stories in a PPP. The government is providing funding. All the entire infrastructure is private sector. So we have the three MNOs, that is the Safaricom, Airtel, and T-Cash. They're the ones who are distributing the money. Then we have the two banks behind it. So we have KCB and Family Bank. So if you look at that, you're using the infrastructure of the private sector to get the service to the mwananchi. And I think also we have seen really basically everything that the government is doing is almost going to very digital so that you can be able to go to the grassroots. So if you combine the thought process with the execution, what I was talking about using the Ngao and the people at the grassroots within the government to train these people and show them this is why we are doing this, I think it will be a significant game changer. We will see the same people who, these are the private sector wanting to ride on this. We have a lot of people who wants to look at the data and see what is it that, what products can we do. So I think as a pilot, the Hustler Fund has created key success stories in PPP, how it can be done, and two, opportunities for other private sectors to ride on.
Right. So what is the future looking like for the Hustler Fund?
I think if I look at it, the things can only get better for the Hustler Fund because, one, you have a ready market in form of the people who wants to borrow, and look at it, you're offering subsidized loans. So anyone who wants to do business, they're actually a step ahead. Instead of borrowing maybe at 20%, they're actually borrowing at 8%. So if I can access 50,000, that is something. When you look at this, the mama mbogas that are being targeted, 50,000 means a lot to them. They can actually expand their offering. So on that end, the key thing is to educate and show people why it is important to borrow responsibly. On the other end, we have not only government willing to put in money, we have donors who are looking at it and saying, okay, fine, our focus area is really, we don't want to leave anyone behind as part of the SDGs. It's really talks to 7 of the SDGs. So well executed, the future it has a huge future. And you see, the thing is, you're not competing with the private sector. We want to make people, once I have already said this is a good borrower, I take them on to the next level. I can't be able to give you 1 million shillings, but wait a minute, the bank is willing to. There are other government funds that are willing to. But for us, it's really to sanitize you and make sure that you're a good borrower. We have trained you. Please grow to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a very positive story.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get your closing remarks as we come to a close of the conversation.
The closing remarks are, yes, the future is bright with the Hustler Fund. The responsibility is yours because you have to take the step and do the right thing. And one takeaway is, I think there is a huge opportunity in communication and explaining to people financial literacy. I feel like as a country, that is something that we all need to throw ourselves into. And guess what? We all have the information. It's just an issue of how do we consume it.
The future is bright for the Hustler Fund. That is the message from the Acting Chief Executive Officer of the Hustler Fund, Elizabeth Nkukuu. We have been talking about access to credit for Kenyans, and she says that it is important for Kenyans to educate themselves on matters financial literacy to ensure that they are dealing with good debt as opposed to bad debt that is becoming a liability to so many Kenyans who are borrowing on one platform to pay till in the next platform. That is the conversation this evening. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Kiptum. Bye-bye.